Hello, welcome back. Nigel with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. And this is effectively part 3 now of the bodywork corrections for this kit. Put any word you want in front of kit. The Italeri Lancia Stratos HF Group 4. Beautiful car. Not such a beautiful kit, unfortunately. But we're still continuing with work on the body. So if you remember, I've got the parts here, they're all in one bag, as you can see. So if you remember, in part 2 we looked at how to blend all this out and get it all sanded out, and then leave it for a while. If you can hear some munching, that's Dottie chewing on the arm of my chair, because that's what she does, even though she's got a multitude of toys. And then here we've got the bonnet, or the front clamshell, the hood, whatever you want to call it. If you remember, we did all that. On the back of there, it's awful. And then we've got the rear bodywork, the engine cover. If you remember, we had that big V in there, and we had some issues around the sides here too. But what we've done there, we've sanded that back. Got puppy hair there as well. Lots of static in these. We've sanded that back, and what we're doing now is just purposely leaving it for a couple of weeks to let it settle down. So in the meantime, what we need to do is build up a jig. So what we need to do is get this body built up onto a jig so that we can do any corrections around any edges we need to do, or anything like that. I mean, you can see here that if I put this on here, it fits beautifully, as I've shown you before. It fits absolutely beautifully. But what we want to do is get something built up so we can actually fit the front and rear end and the center section and get it all lined up, everything, and do any edge trimming or filling or whatever we need to do, get that done now. I would also like to get these, because the rear wheel arches, if we look in the instructions here, we can see you've got the actual main rear wheel arch here. All right, you've got the actual main rear wheel arch there. And then you've got the little piece at the front, which is going on here. And adding all that after it's all painted and that is just asking for trouble. So what I would rather do is get it all done beforehand, so it's already there, ready for painting. We're going to have to blend that out, because that's not in real life, it's not a bolted on item. It's actually blended out, as you can see here. So that's what we're going to have to do there. But actually fitting those on now and then hoping they're going to line up here and everything is just forget it. Because there's no positive location for them. So basically that's that. So what I want to do is basically build up the chassis. And I've got lots of parts here for the chassis. And as you can see, we've done some assembly. I've got this is the front clip. This is like the front subframe, if you like. And because I'm just a fussy bugger, I've gone in and filled all the bottom in. It's just like a C-section with open bottoms. What I've done, I've gone in and filled the bottom in plastic card, fitted these boxes here, and basically just filled it all in so it becomes a box section, so it looks a bit more realistic if you happen to pick the model up and look at the bottom, which you're never going to do, are you? But anyway, I wanted to do it. We also had here, we had a lot of ejector pin marks on here. There's also where you've got this bracket here, which I think is the support for a fire extinguisher. There's a slot in there. I filled that in with some plastic card. We've also got sink marks, which are a big feature of this kit. So where the fire extinguisher mount is there, we've got sink marks there, ejector pin marks all over it, and sink marks up the side here. So bear that in mind. Also got ejector pin marks up there. There were some sink marks here, so they've been sanded out. This rear piece here, all I've done is sanded out mold seams on there. There's nothing really much more to do than that on that one. This is the front lower cross member. This is where the front radius arms are going to go on. This is made up of 2 pieces, so I've dealt with the seam on that from underneath and the top. So that's all looking lovely. These inner fenders are covered in ejector pin marks, so they're all sanded out and dealt with on there, filled and sanded out, I should say. This piece here, this is the top of the rear subframe. That there was all hollow with sink marks, so I filled it in with black super glue and sanded that out, so that looks a lot better. These pieces here This is where this little angular piece here, this is where the rear anti-roll bar fits, and in there was a massive undercut. So as you can see, I've added some plastic card and then sanded it down. Same on this side, you can see the plastic card in there. Okay, so that just makes it all flat. And then there's also a piece to be added in here, this little triangular piece here, that's got to be added in. And I've also filled that corner with black super glue and sanded that out. So you can see that's all sanded out, so they're all lovely. These rear hinges, they're shown in here. Dooba-dooba-doo, where are we? They're parts 17 to 20A, okay, and they're shown here. They're awful to put together if you want to build them separate. Now I want to build them separate because then what I can do is attach these to the rear body, have the rear body hinges not attached properly either, and actually position the body and glue these hinges in place. These basically are going to sit on there like that, okay? So basically what I want to do is glue them in, sand them, whatever, and get them all right. Now, if you want to build them like this, what I did, I put a piece of plastic card in the middle there so that I could glue them together to keep them square. I would also suggest get something like this is just a shaft with a pin in it. Get a needle or a bit of rod or something, and make sure that when you build them, they're square so that the bolts go through nice and square. So, but when you build them, they're square both that way and that way. Okay, so obviously, if that one's over on an angle like that, you've got the parts like this. If they're over on an angle like that, you've got the parts like that. There is no location. All there is this. There's like a ledge on the top. Okay, that glues them together, and then they go over that. There's that piece there. They just slot over there and into that slight recess in the bodywork there. Okay, there's puppy hairs everywhere. Something I may well do, looking online, these spot welds seem to be a little bit overdone. I may soften them a bit. But also online, there's a flange that runs all the way down the edge here, which isn't there. And there's also a flange that runs down here. When you actually look at it on the model, the way they've done it is so that when it goes together, you've got the flange there sticking out, okay, which is very nice. But then it goes off on the angle. It should go straight down, and this here is a separate gusset. So if you want to change that, you can. I'm not sure how visible all of that's going to be when you look at the... what's wrong with my bloody fingers today? When you look at the photograph in there of the built model, it's not really visible, so we may not bother with that. We shall see. So yeah, that's that. So those things are a nightmare to put together, but just take your time. Those side pieces we've looked at, the front cross member, the front subframe we've looked at. This one here, I haven't done anything with this one. It's just straight out of the box. There was nothing required really, so that's all good. Just to clean up on there, and then straight on. I think that's the only part I've come across so far with that sink mark in it. That's incredible. And then here we have this little front bulkhead area where the steering rack's going to go, and that's got ejector pin marks in it, which need to be sanded out because I think they'll be visible from inside. And the actual floor itself, oh dear, ejector pin marks all over the place. They all need to be sanded out. Sink marks here, 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 and here. There's sink marks here and here. There's ejector pin marks there, ejector pin marks in there. There was a load of flash in these holes. I had to clean that out. And then on the inside there's sink marks. You can see them still in the floor here, but they're all behind the seat, so don't worry about them too much. There's also a massive sink mark there and a massive sink mark there, 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 and there. You can see, still see a slight one there. But we'll probably just sand that one out actually, to be honest. There's that one gone. Just sand that out like that. That's the easiest way to do it. So yeah, lots and lots of work gone into this already. There's a slot we have to open up for the handbrake in here, but I'm not doing that yet because something a lot of manufacturers do, they give you this great big slot here, you can see, to be opened up, and then you find that the handbrake goes in there, the pin's about 1 millimetre wide and you've got a great gap. So we'll wait till we come to fit the handbrake lever. So, moving over to the instructions, as all our sprue callouts, you can see the way Italeri would have us build this is add all this detail inside here, which just seems absolutely ridiculous. They're actually telling you to leave this gear stick off, 21L, until the end of step 1 to avoid breakage. Well, why don't you leave it off until the end of step why don't you leave it off until the start of step 39? You know, put it in now and then it won't get broken off, will it? It just seems absolutely crazy. So yeah, bear that in mind, because you know you're going to be going along, you're going to be turning this thing upside down, working on the bottom, you know, putting your suspension, your brakes and everything in. It's going to get broken off, the handbrake and the gear lever. So you know, why fit them? But what I want to do at the moment is build up a basic monocoque, if you like, a chassis that I can hang the body off, clamp to, tape to, whatever, and then I know that I'm going to get my front and rear clamshells fitting properly. The other thing is, they're telling you here, you can see we've got this rear bulkhead here, this rear firewall. You're going to fit this cross member assembly in behind, and then you're going to glue them onto the floor. Great, but you want to make sure it's going to line up in here and everything. So I would seriously suggest, before you do any of that, is fit this bulkhead into the chassis. You've got alignment slots there, okay, and they go behind the bulkhead. So you've got tabs there, okay, you can put your finger underneath and hold that in position, and then pop the body on and check all the angles are good before you start. You know, because if you get that glued on, you know, exaggerated, if you get it on the wrong side of those tabs and you have it like that, say exaggerated now, you know, you come along to put the body on and then you think, oh no, it's a mile out. These bits here are going to rest up against the back of here. So yeah, it's going to have to be very nicely put in, and I won't trust. What they're asking you to do is glue this onto here like this. Okay. As you can see, that's got play in it, so that's going to affect the angle. And then put that in there like that and glue all this in together. No, what I'd rather do is glue this bulkhead in, get it properly aligned with the actual body, yeah, and then fit that afterwards. And if we have to do any trimming on the top to make it fit, then we will, rather than have to wrestle with the body to make it fit later. So that's what I want to do there. The other thing I've noticed, which is a bit of a nightmare, but this isn't having a go at Italeri now because I don't know how else you could do it. You've got this front area here, and what they're telling you to do, you've got these two parts here, 46A and 46B and 47B, and what they're telling you to do is glue this on. So what you've got here are two, you can see there's two blocks on here, one either side, and those blocks are going to slide into there, like so. Okay, so you're going to fit those blocks in there, like that. But the trouble is here, you don't know if you've got it on the correct angle, like that. So what we need to do is sort of tack it into place, and then get one of these, where are they? There's one. Get one of these front fenders, this one I want, fit that into place, and then check it all lines up. Okay, so when that fender is fitted in place and this area here that I'm pointing out now lines up with the floor, that tab on there should go into that front slot in there. Okay, so that's how we know we've got that right. We also, we get these instructions out of there because I can mess it up your image. We also need to make sure that when we fit this, we have it correct like that. You don't want to get it twisted. So what I'm going to do is probably fit this first and then leave it for a few hours to harden. And what we'll do is probably use a spirit level, actually, because I've got a little spirit level, and make sure that it's parallel. Okay, so we've got that across there, that across there, that across there, there and there, and get those all parallel. If I grab my little spirit level, wherever he may be, here he be here. So you can see it's the bench is pretty level. I think what I'll do is put a sanding stick under here, so it's not sitting on those bits at the back. Okay, so what I want to do, you can see that was off to one side, so what I'll do is fit this and have it so it's the same as that side. Okay, and as you can see there, it's a lot different. So we need to get to, well, it's across there, we need to make sure it's level, actually, not there. So what we could do is put a rod across there and then check it. So I think that's what I'm going to do first, is get this front end on without all that cumbersome back being in the way. Because what we've got to do is get that bulkhead on, and then we've got to get all of this rear sort of chassis section fitted in. That's got to go in there. And get all this fitted in and have it all nice and square and everything. As I say, we're not going to glue those hinges on yet because we may need to manipulate them, move them sideways, whatever, to make the body look right. That's the main thing, is making the body look right. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to glue this on. So I'll get myself set up and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so something I have just noticed, when they've got us fitting this front subframe area here, we've already got this cross member and this little bulkhead in. They're showing us there how it goes. These instructions are, when I emailed Italeri, I've actually told them, you know, your processing is terrible. The kit is a mess. It's just a collection of sink marks. But the guy who did the instructions deserves a pay rise, because these instructions are brilliant. You know, this is what we need, guys. If other manufacturers are watching, you know, show us how it goes, show us how it goes together, and then show us how it should be. You know, they've done it here, they've done it here. It's throughout the manual. It's absolutely brilliant, the instruction manual. It really is good. So I need to fit those first. So that cross member just literally glues in there. Okay, and then this bulkhead just literally pops in like that. You can see it's a lovely fit. And we've got this step on here that sits in there. So that gives us our lateral location, but we've also got a lip on the back that butts up against here, and you can see in the drawing there, you can see how that lip at the back is butted up against the floor. So you can see we've got that angle on the floor here. So that basically goes in. So I'll get it glued in. Use our good old Tamiya extra thin. So basically that cross member is going to sit in there like that. It doesn't go, it sort of sits in this step here. It sits in that step area there. So I'm just going to blow the dust away, and then we can add a drop of extra thin to each end. Okay, and that should be enough just to hold that in. And I don't want to glue it in with loads of glue, because I want to be able to move it, because it got play side to side. So I want to check that when I've got that in there, this is going to fit in between. Okay, so I'm just looking at this. I grab a rule, something with a straight edge, put that against that side, and then butt it up to it. That side should be the same. That means we've got it central. Okay, and then what we can do is take some extra thin and run it down in there. Now if that's this, the parallelism of this to this isn't so important, because it's just the inner end of the radius arms on the front, so it doesn't really matter. You know, if it would matter in real life a hell of a lot, but on a model kit it doesn't matter. Yeah, if you had that out on your on your real car, your roll centers would be all over the place. It would feel very, very strange to drive. So there we go. So that's going to go in there like that. That's going to go in there like that. And as we can see, we've got that all butted up. That's all good. Right. I'm just looking here. I'm wondering, those, you see those faces have got sink marks in them as well, which doesn't help at all. Now this bulkhead, as I said, you've got a recess in here and you've got a tab on here. That's going to go in there. So that's just going to sit. And you can see from the diagram in the manual, you can see how that's going to go. Again, we've got a tiny bit of sideways movement. We want to make sure it's sort of centered. And then what we can do is just drop a cement in there. That should be enough to hold it there. Got another puppy hair there. Just run some extra thin into there. Okay, so that's that held together. I do just want to say, guys, this is not the start of another project. This is all about, as I said in part one, this is all about getting the body sorted. Because, yeah, I've done a review. I've shown you what a mess the body is in my kit. I'm hearing reports from some of you who are buying these kits and the body's lovely, or the roof's lovely, but the front bonnet is, somebody described theirs as a crinkle cut crisp. Some people have got quite vocal about what they think of the kit and use some language that is maybe not suitable. But I'm not going to stop anyone from expressing their opinion. Unless it's ridiculous, of course. Okay, so that will now fit on there. So as you can see, it's staying in place now, which is nice. So that's kind of holding it there. So we can see now with these front fenders or inner arches, if I fit that on there like that, we can see that's all square. You can see the front of that clip is way too low. So that is my suggestion, is fit these. I'm not exactly sure how they're supposed to fit, because let's have a look in the manual. Okay, it's looking like, I need to staple that in, don't I? Just put it over there. It's looking like it's designed to fit so that the back edge here butts up to this edge. It doesn't sit on top. Let's have a look. But then you see when you put it together, when that tab there bottoms out on there, it's sitting on top. It's the same problem as this on the Daiosha kit. It's exactly the same. It's like, where on earth does it all go? I have a feeling that once it's all glued into place, it will be a lot easier. But so yeah, that's going in there. As you can see, it's all a little bit vague. I wonder what the other side's like. I wish they'd have put like a flange or something on here to help you align it. It looks like it certainly does sit on top. When you look at the instructions, it looks like it's sat in front of it. We could have done with one of those drawings in that area. So here we would be fitting this together. Yeah, it certainly does look, the way it's drawn, it certainly does look like it's in front. But then we've got that piece there going in as well. So I don't really know. I think what I'm going to do is let this dry. So that's all in there and solid. And then go from there, because I don't really know where to go from here. It's okay for them to just say glue that on, but how do I know that it's right? Especially when you've got, you know, a face full of sink marks on a face full of sink marks. It's just dire, this thing. The standard of moulding in this kit is it's like 30 years old. It's just rubbish. It really is bad. Which is why I'm doing these videos after all. Okay, so don't know where we go from here really. I'll have another think. So I got these parts off the fret, off the sprue, and you can see that these, when they fit on these inner fenders, they fit very nicely, but you can see that that is actually butting up on there. So this must actually sit in front of there. So I think what we're going to have to do is kind of dummy assemble this, but now this is where we've got the problem. Part of the location is this front wheelhouse or front suspension unit here that goes in, but we need to assemble all the wishbones first, and I don't want to do that. We've got the ends to glue on as well. It all has to go together. So I don't want to be doing that now, so I don't really know how I'm going to go about this, but I've got a feeling that that's also going to give us some alignment. So I don't know, let me have a little think about it, have a longer look at it, and we'll go from there. Okay, I've been playing. What I would like to do, if you look here, they have these boxes in here for the suspension to go into, and if you look here, they have you assemble it all sort of at the same time together. So what I've done an experiment, and I've basically taped this together, and I've discovered that you can actually, when it's all together, you can put it together like so. So it is possible to build these boxes up, these turrets, glue these into the inner wings, and then we can fit those after. So that means we can spray all the chassis as well, which is brilliant. So we must make sure we don't get the parts mixed up. Now there are some ejector pin marks and some fit issues on here, so I'll just roughly go through those with you quickly. Basically make sure the ends are sanded, because there's sort of like mould seam edges everywhere. So make sure that's all nicely done, like so, and then all the mating faces will go together nicely. Okay, and then obviously again this is for the newer modelers out there, and then we've also got on this one here, you can see we've got some ejector pin marks. So what I'm going to do is just sand them out, just like so. Now I have a feeling that we may need to fit a metal rod in here, because looking at it, what they've got is the front shock absorber. The front shock absorber is sitting, as you can see, on this piece here. I mentioned this in my review. So when it goes together, you can see that plastic rod there, the shock absorber is sitting on it. And when you actually put it together, you can see that rod is sitting in midair, because it looks like you've got a support there, but that support, I don't know if you can make that out there because it's all black, but that support is much bigger than the rod. So it's not actually supported, so we may end up having to put a metal rod through or something, I don't know. We shall see. We've also got 1, 2, 3, 4 ejector pin marks on here, and I could get in there with a icky sticky skinny stick 400 grit and just sand that one out of there, so that's good. I can get that one out of there. They're all just slightly raised, which is really good. We could also take our number 10 blade and just gently scrape to remove the ejector pin mark. Like so. And then just gently sand that away. Sand that away. And then we can just simply glue them together. So we'll get that done. Let that dry. Probably go around the edges. What I've done with these, I've gone around the edges with black super glue to fill in the seams. We'll let all that dry and sand all that back. So again, this is one of those videos that takes, you know, what are we, a few minutes in, and I've been a couple of hours at the bench playing with it. So playing with the model, that is, nothing else. So there we go. So happy with that. We'll get all that done, get those together just like it says in the instructions, and then I'll be back. And we're back. Yes. The last snippet of this video you saw was actually filmed on the 30th of December 2024. It is now the 1st of January 2025. Yes, I spent most of yesterday working on this, and what I've actually done, if you look in the instructions, they tell you to, where are we? They tell you to fit this cross member in this bulkhead, which we've done, and then they tell you to fit this front clip, which, as I said, was a very sort of ambiguous fit, because as you can see, it's kind of, you know, where does it go? And the faces that you're mounting to are covered in sink marks, so it's difficult to know which way it goes. But to be fair, what I've discovered through testing is with these tabs here inserted in these slots here, and these ledges on here on this bulkhead there on the corners, when you push this in, okay, if you push the front up, that is pretty much the correct position. Now, what I've said before, I wanted to use these side pieces to check for the fit, and as you can see, with these fitted in position, I can get this to go into that slot in there, and I know then them at the correct height. Because if we end up gluing it, say we glued it on, say we just glued it on like that, okay, and then we discover it's wrong, then we are up the proverbial without a paddle. But as you can see, you know, you've got, if you look back here, you can see I've got movement in there and also the front. So I want to make sure the back is down tight here and then make sure the front is up tight to there. We've also got a nice fit in there. So you can see that from the last video, what I've done, I built up these boxes, which is where I left you. Not the last video, the last clip, last segment. I've built up these boxes, super glued around the edges, sanded it all out nice and smooth, then glued the boxes into the inner wings, super glued around the edges, sanded it out nice and smooth, sanded it out nice and smooth here. And also in the instructions, they ask you to fit these, make these boxes up, fit them to the inner wings, and then fit them onto this central bulkhead and then drop that down on. It's all a bit ambiguous because nothing really has any positive locations. But having said that, what I'm doing, I'm trying to do this so that you can see what you want to do, what you feel safe with. Now, I've gone on, it tells you then to fit these side panels here. Well, I've gone on and fitted them to the inner wings and blended them out and everything with super glue because I feel that I'm getting a better guess of how these fit. Because if you remember, that's the join there, and when you put that in there, it's like, does it go on top of, does it go in behind, is it in front of it, you know, where is it going, whatever. And you know, I've got no positive alignment here, I've got no alignment here, so all I can really do is butt it up here, get it up butted nice and, oh, blimey, get it butted up here, okay, so that we're tight there, along here and in that step, and just glue it in position. Now, as I say, they're telling us to glue this in. We've got a little ridge on here that it goes on. Okay, so I can glue that in there. But again, there's no real positive holes or pins or anything. So it's all sort of a bit ambiguous, but there's nothing to tell me if I've got it right. And as you can see, even as I'm holding it here, I can easily get it all out. So what I'd rather do is kind of mock it up. And what I'll probably do is glue this into here, deal with these seams, glue that on that side as well, and then lift this off of the chassis. But the whole objective, all of this work is all about getting this front clip in the right vertical position and having it, as we said before, parallel here, so that when we fit the front on, we know it's going to fit. Now, something I will say, you know, as much as I'm knocking this kit about its very poor moulding, I think its engineering is pretty good. I would have liked to have seen better locations and stuff, rather than just, you know, I mean, perhaps put a square peg on there and have a square hole in there so that sort of locks in, rather than just have it all floating around. But something I have noticed, if I can get this to stay together on camera, when we put the body shell on, you can see here those tabs locating the floor, and you can see the fit here on the body shell is beautiful, where it clips, where it goes into there. That's really, really nice. So yeah, I mean, the fit of the back onto the front and onto the midsection is also awesome. So I'm hoping it's all going to be the same all the way through. Everything's covered in puppy hairs because we've been doing lots of sanding and everything's covered in static. But yeah, so I think what we'll do now is tape these into position like so, and then get this glued in, and then we'll have some stability then. So I haven't got any masking tape out, so I'm going to get some masking tape out and then we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so I've got these inner wings taped on now, and I've also got this front subframe bit in. So what we could do now is go on and glue this front subframe in. What I'd rather do is have this on the top as a solid structure that I can put down and then butt that up to it, and I know we're good to go then. Now we've got a lovely little step on here on this front edge that goes into a lovely little step on there, so that is a beautiful little assembly. I did find on mine there was flash in these corners, so bear that in mind on yours. There's still some flash in there now. Bear that in mind. And basically there's ledges in there, and it's just going to sit on those ledges in there. And what I want it to do is sit on those ledges and butt up to this lower panel, which, as you can see, it does. But if I put it all together properly, we do have a gap across here. So what I'm going to do is remove a small amount of material from here and a small amount from here. That should allow it just to come forward a bit. What I'm planning to do, if I can, is glue all of this together, all of it as a monocoque, and then fit the parts in afterwards, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that. We'll have to do some checking. But remember, guys, if you are new to the hobby, this is not a kit for you. If you're new to the hobby, basically put it back in its box and go and get something else. If you want to build a 12th scale car, and you want something that should be, you know, that will be relatively easy to build, any of the Tamiya kits, or the Meng Ford GT40, or apparently that Meng McLaren is quite nice as well. But yeah, you can see we've got issues with the fit here, so these corners do need to come back a bit. I just want to get it so that when I place it together, it sits right. Okay. I'm just trying to look here now how this is supposed to sit. Does that sit down in behind that lower panel, or does it sit on top of it? I've got a feeling it should sit on top of it. Maybe the instructions will show us, or not, as the case may be. It looks like they've got it drawn there as it's sitting in behind. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So with that on top of there and that on top of there, that is looking pretty good. We're going to have to assemble this because we're going to have a seam here to deal with. I just hope we can get it all together, get the steering rack in and everything. We should be able to, but we're a while away from that yet. So that's going to sit in there like that, sit up on top of there. Job done. I'm going to do this off camera. What I'm going to do is tape it together and just get some cement around here and only glue this to these. I'm not going to glue the inner wings to the floor. I just want a solid square structure so that we know that we got that front clip right. Alright, so I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so there you can see we're taped in. I've had to do a bit of fettling. I've had to sand quite a lot from this side here on this bulkhead to get it to go forward. And to check it's square, I mean, you can see on the joint there when it's nicely snug and sat in there. But also what I've done is got a rule and just gone in from that top edge there. I can see it's about 101 and a half, and on this side it's, what is it, about 100 and, my fingers in the way of the rule. It's the same anyway, it's about 101 and a half. There you can see I need some more tape on there to pull that in. So tape is your friend here, because clamping all these curves and everything will be an absolute nightmare. So we'll pull that together, and then we'll pull that tape over it like that. Right. And the trouble is that's also lifted it up, so that's not good, is it? So it may be a case of going in with some extra thin quick setting, or even some instant super glue just to tack it, and then we'll go in with the glue afterwards. But yeah, tape's your friend. Get it all clamped together, get it all mocked up, make sure these areas in here are nice and square. And you can see I've got my Rebel Hobby from Sweden clamp on here. I have to say that in every time I use them. I get flooded with questions. Where are those clamps from? Where are those clamps from? Rebel Hobby in Sweden. Right, so there we go. So we're pretty much ready to go. So we've got to somehow glue this in without gluing it to this front bulkhead, because I want to be able to take this off. Having said that, because I need to check, but I would like to just have all this glued together when it comes to fitting the front clamshell on. We can see now, if we put the body on, like so, and we peg it into place, somehow, come on, oh, is it possible to clamp anything on this bloody model? It's a nightmare. There we go. There we go, that's gone in there. Okay, and now what we can do, you can see how this is all fitting in here beautifully. Yeah. That's got to come down, it's being held up with the tape, that's going to have to come back. So as you can see, we're going to have to mess with that to get it to fit properly. Oh no, it's the tape pulling it forward and the bloody pegs come off. And then when we come along with the front, we should see that we get a nice, come here, we should see that we get a nice fit on there with the front sat on there. So that's all good. So we know we've got the profile correct and everything. So honestly guys, what I'd like to do is be able to tell you that you can just build it to the instructions and it will be absolutely fine. But I think if you do what they're suggesting, look at that, went straight to it the first time. If you were to do what they suggest here, I think you're going to struggle with that joint there, because as I say, I've had to sand a bit off of here, but I've had to sand a lot off of there. So because when you come to fit these in here, these towers, when you fit them in, they kind of there's movement there. So you know, as I say, there's no real positive location on any of this, which is quite annoying. I wish they designed in some pegs, pins, blocks, squares, tabs, whatever. It's all just a bit like, you know, like this can go anywhere, these can go anywhere, this can go anywhere, that can go anywhere. It's nothing's positive. It's great when it's on a computer in front of your face, but it's not so great when you've got to actually do it in the flesh. And this is one of the problems with designing anything that has to be assembled by someone else. The designer falls into the natural trap of assuming that you know. And that is the problem. That still needs to be pulled down tighter. Get that on there and then give it a good pull. There we are. And I'm going to put a drop of Tamiya extra thin with bench cleared. I'm going to put a drop of Tamiya extra thin quick setting in there. I've got the shakes today, guys. I was out last night for New Year's. So I'll put a drop of the quick setting in there. And now I'm going to take Dottie for a walk and let that cure, and hopefully we'll be good to go. Back in a minute. Okay, we're back. So as you can see, that's all glued on there now and it's all nice and solid. No, it's not, I'm lying. We've got that part in there. So with the adjustments I've had to make and pull this around and everything, I would seriously recommend you fit these parts here and get this fitted to your floor pan before you glue this in. I think if you follow the instructions here and just glue that in as they say, there is a big risk of getting it out like this, like that. And also when you come to fit it, I mean, you can see even though I had everything clamped in, if I have this front edge here nice and parallel, you can see we've got quite a gap there compared to that side. And also I've noticed that when I let it go, if I use a spirit level, I can show you. Okay, place that spirit level there. You can see the bubble is just off to the right, and there the bubble is over to the left. So we do have a slight twist in it. So what I think I'm going to do is get this here glued in. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you is this. This area here, okay, these triangular areas here, they line up with these triangular areas here and finish off the bonnet area, if you like, the frunk, if you like, if that's what you want to call it. So, oh, come on. Right, so that's going to go on there like that. That's going to go on there like that. Okay, if I hold those in place, you can see that I have to pull the front up slightly to get it to line up there. Okay, so basically these tabs on the bottom are actually making this front end sit like that. Okay, you can see when I put this in, if I put this in so it's located on there, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. If you look at this panel, look at the edge of this panel here, okay, and compare that to at the back, that you can see it's got a lean over to the left and it needs to come up. You can see there it needs to come up on this side to get it parallel. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is pack this side up, but what I want to do, I don't want to be lifting it here, I want to lift it back here. It's just a tiny amount, it literally is probably 0.5 millimeter. I'll just put some plastic card in there and step it up. But yeah, I seriously would recommend going that way about it. Now, I've looked at the assembly sequence, and when it comes to here, they're telling you to put the steering rack in first, then bring this down and then fit these supports. Now I think the only reason they're doing that is because once you've got the suspension in there, you won't be able to get the steering rack to go through. But I don't have the suspension in there. So obviously you can see here we've got a ton of room. Even if we glue this front clip in, we've got a ton of room to get the steering rack in through there. So that'll be fine. So what I'm going to do next, guys, is glue this area here, okay, and get this front edge here all nice, and then play around with the back, because as long as that's glued there and it's all nice, I can still move it around, I can still twist it and pull it about, because this has some flex in it. Not a lot, but it has got some flex in it. But I want to get that a nice seam there, because I don't want to have to be working around and messing, because if I lift that side up now, if I put this in here like so, I lift this side up, you can see it moves that on the front. So I'm going to get that glued in, clamp it in, whatever, tape it up. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but get that glued into there nicely, so we get a nice seam along there, and then we can play around with it. I've looked at everything else, and when it comes to all down in here, I've got to put all the pedals and the footrests and everything in. I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. And if we do have to fit metal rod into here, because I don't think this plastic wishbone, you got this, as I mentioned before, you got this leg on here which doesn't attach to anything on the other end, and you've got that front shock absorber sitting on there, and that is basically a 1.5mm diameter piece of plastic rod, unsupported. I don't think that's going to support the weight of the car. I'm sure that the spring is going to be stronger than that, and I think when you push the car up and down, it's just going to bend that. So you could either fix the front suspension or replace it. And the other thing to note is when you look at these wishbones, you can see that these pins, they're not in line. The pivot is off to the centre, so all we'll have to do is, if we're going to do anything, we'll cut these pins off, drill them out, and then we'll put a piece of brass rod through, which will be easy from the inside or from the front. So there we go. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to glue that into there. We've got that step in there. This is going to go down into it, and that will be that. And remember, guys, this is all to get this in the correct position so that the front fits properly. It's crazy, I know, but hopefully, as I say, I can come up with a solution so that you know that when you build yours, you can trust the fit of the parts rather than having to do all this messing around. So the other thing I'm going to do actually is trim. I'm just going to trim a little bit of plastic off of there. Just going to sand a little bit off of there, just to allow this to come forward. I've constantly got a gap here. Even though I did loads of messing around up here, I've still got a gap in that side. So all that's stopping that coming forward is that ledge there. And it doesn't matter if we've got a gap there or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not gluing it now, I can always pull it back afterwards, but once that front, I want to get that seam there nice. Okay, there we go. So I've basically taped this in, and I've put some Tamiya extra thin quick setting in, and I've managed to push that corner back in there and get that glued in. What's very interesting, you can see here, okay, that side's down, alright, look, this side has popped up. So with this all taped in correctly and that side down, that side has popped up on its own. Remember I said it's not parallel? When you look at it now, you can see, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit too high, so I just pull it down a touch. But you can see that it's pulling itself into shape. So that's very interesting. I hope I'm not overcomplicating this for you guys, and I hope you can understand what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is establish a process to put this together to keep everything square and have it all nice. And I don't think, I could be completely wrong, and if I am wrong, please tell me in the comments. If you've built one of these and it's gone together beautifully, then, you know, I say it's probably, there is an element of luck in there as well, rather than just skill. Because if you glue this in, as they say in the instructions, and then find out it's out, I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how you're going to get, how you're going to get around that. So, yeah, awkward. But there will be the people out there that will say, "Oh, you're bloody wasting your time. Why are you pissing around doing this, that, and the other? You could just glue it all together. What's the point? Why you think you know better? Blah blah blah." On and on and on and on and on. So, yeah, they can carry on. But they'll put the comments in, but they won't appear because all comments are held. So here we go. But there we are. So I enjoy doing stuff like this. I enjoy finding workarounds. But what I'm trying to do here is try and guarantee that I get this front end in the right position, rather, because like that's basically the sole point of this. And I thought this was going to be a 10-minute video, or not 10, half an hour video, to show you how to get this together. And I know I'm going to have to make another part about doing the back end, because we're going to have to do the same on the back end all over again, because, well, the back end actually isn't so critical, because the back end is basically a box structure. You can see here, and there's the only part that's going to be important on this is getting this bulkhead in the right position fore aft, so it lines up with the body. But all this here, none of it touches the bodywork, so if it's slightly out, whatever, it doesn't matter. And also we're going to be putting these hinges on the back with the rear in situ, so none of it really matters, not as much as this, because with this, obviously this has got to fit together with the body, and then with the actual central part of the body, and then this, so that's going to fit all nicely with that. So when we glue all this in, we're going to have the body fitted so that this lines up nicely, and then the front end is going to sit on it like so. It needs to be all in the right place and everything. You can see how it all fits, lines up lovely. In this respect, now we have a much nicer kit than the Diosha, or than my Diosha. I can only think, as I think I mentioned before, my kit, my Diosha Stratos 112, one day I'll get it out and show you, but the body on that is a complete and utter mess. It is really all over the place, and I can't believe that all the kits are that bad. It's worse than this, much worse than this. It is absolutely plastered in filler. So there we go. So I'm going to let that seam there dry out. Okay, take this front clip out. That's staying in there on its own. It doesn't even want me to pull it out now. So we'll take that front clip out. I'm going to get that seam all glued up, and then we can go from there. Okay, so moving on. Here we are now, a couple of hours later. This is just going. I started on that. I mean, I was up late today because it's New Year's Day, but it's now 9:30 at night, and like I've been on this all afternoon anyway. So yeah, it's taking forever. So we've got that seam dealt with on there, and it's all very nice and all nicely dealt with. So that's what I wanted, was a nice clean seam there. And you can see now, with all that glued in place, I can now pull this front end around, and I can pull it about and twist it about and put it where I want. Whereas if I glued these bits in first, then fighting with that would have been more difficult. So that's why I've done that. I know this video is slow. I've just been editing the previous segments, and we're up to practically an hour already. So I'm going to call it a day in a minute on this one. I know this video is kind of slow. Got a bit of a low spot there. I'm going to put some more super glue in there and get that sanded back. Yeah, so I know this video is kind of slow, but what I'm doing is taking you through my thought process. Not because I think I've got the best thought process in the world, not because I think I'm the ultimate modeler, not because I think I'm in any position to tell you how to build one of these should you want to, but I know that a lot of you are very, very interested in seeing how I go about things and my thought processes, which is what I try and explain. I'm not the kind of guy that makes I don't do a 25-minute video for building the whole model. I'm not like that, as you know. So if you want to see that sort of stuff, there's lots of people on YouTube that do that. But I know a lot of my viewers like to see the sort of the how-to stuff But even though I don't like to call it how-to stuff, because I think how-to is not the right phrase, it's how I do it. So as I said, what we're going to have to do is get this glued in, and what I think I'm going to do is glue this side in solid, get that on, only here. I'm not going to glue it here because we've got some pieces to go in here underneath as well. So those ejector pin marks that I've got rid of there, you don't need to worry about them because there's panels covering them, I believe. Yeah, what I'm going to do is glue it here, and then what we'll do is we'll square it up on this side. And what I'm going to do when I glue it, as I say, I'm going to fit the body onto here just like this. Okay, get the body clamped or taped into position or whatever. You can see we have a little bit of forward and aft movement. I'm going to push the body as far forward as it will go. All right, and then we should have it pretty square. I can check for square, and then what I'm going to do is glue this front end in and have it all level with the body, and so that the nose fits nicely. But I'm going to do that in the next video, because I'm going to call this one now, because it's been probably gone just over the hour now, which is way too much for this little bit of work. But as you can see, we're going to be pulling this side around, and also as you can see, now that we've got that glued in, we can put this front clip in like so, he says. We can put this front clip in. It will go in, I know it will, because I've done it before. Get that out of the way. There we go, that goes in like that. And then we'll pull this leg out of the way here, and that goes in like that. And now you can see that front clip can be sat in there, and then we can check it's all parallel and everything. In fact, I don't really need to glue this in yet. I can actually glue this in to suit the front end. And then if the hinges that fit into the front end here exaggerated, they're like that, then we can make this front clip like that to suit, to get the, because at the end of the day what we're after is getting the body nice and square. So let's just have a quick look, see how this looks. I'm not sure. We can get that on there. Of course, I haven't fitted this lower belly on the front of the nose yet, in case Italeri are going to send me new body panels. However, saying that, I don't think I want to wait really, because their parts department doesn't even open until next week. Today is New Year's Day, by the way. So, but what I can tell you is, looking at this now, how this is going together, it is going to be a very nice build if you take your time and get all this right. I'm a little bit concerned about that wheel arch there. That's going to be poking forward into the, you're going to see it through the bodywork. But hang on, that's going to go back like that. Look, that's going to go back like that. So you may not, if we do, what we'll do is we'll slice down here and move it back. Yeah, looking at that, that doesn't look too good, does it? Yeah, but if we push it back, you can see. I don't think you can't see anything because it's all bloody black. I can't stand this black plastic. Yeah, that side's okay, but this side needs to go. Oh, you can see there when I push it back where it's going to be. You can see it's absolutely fine. So there we are. That's going to go back like that. So we're going to get the body fitted, clamp that in place like that, and then glue this when it's all fitted and level and everything's good. Yeah, we're not going to do it until we've got that right. Right, so I will see you for what's going to be part 4, isn't it? But yeah, if you're not enjoying this, switch off. It's don't just leave negative comments and stuff. If you're not enjoying it, switch off. If you do want to see how to go about building one of these, and at the end of the day, as I say, what I may be able to do is point you in the direction, say it's okay to go on and just fit that with that bulkhead there in place, and you'll be absolutely fine. But I really wouldn't glue this and this together without having it on here, and not after the adjustments I've had to make. So there we go. All right, I'll see you for part 4. Thank you for watching, and bye for now. Oh, and Happy New Year to you all. Bye.